first start by thanking you for your purchase of our TGT hip. We're gonna make sure, using our quick start guide, that we put it together correctly and put it on so we can maximize the use of our product. Start with our TGT hip by just simply loosening up the set screw. Then we're gonna make sure that we use the side with the 2 circles to insert into the TGT hip, tighten down with our set screw to secure the training rod in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the little knuckle on top and down. You can kind of see how we can separate the device. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the bottom flap, we're gonna slide it behind our belt or our pants. We're gonna pull on that knuckle on the top, holding the training rod in, and slide it down over top of the belt or our pants. This can also then move from our lead side, which as a right-hander, I have it on my left side or my lead side. And our quick start guide, we have it on our trail side. So all we're gonna do now is slide the device off. I'm gonna loosen up the set screw. I'm gonna take that training rod, slide it out, and slide it right into the opposite side of our TGT hip. Now, once again, I'm gonna use that flap, slide it right behind my belt, in between my pants and my belt, pull open the knuckle, and slide it down over my belt. Then we're gonna be able to adjust this, and we'll talk a little bit more about adjusting it in just a few minutes. From here, our product is set, either on your trail hip or your lead hip. So we use the same device for either side of your swing. In our quick start guide, as I mentioned, we have it set on our trail hip. So now we're gonna discuss how we set this up and how we can adjust this based on different shots we're gonna hit or when we get up to sequencing our golf swing. So to start out here, what I've got is I'm gonna bend the rod more for a shorter shot or a chip or type shot where I want to avoid, looking from down the line, I want to avoid the club being sucked inside. One of the biggest death moves in a short shot is where the club head gets pulled to the inside. So what we're gonna do here in this basic chip is make sure that the club and arms are gonna stay out in front of me. This is gonna keep the club face square, allow me to come back in with more consistency for my chip shots around the green. So simple setup, but a little adjustment, avoiding that sucking inside, coming in and leading the hosel into those short chips. We're gonna make sure we have it set. We're gonna keep the club and arms outside of our training device as we go back, and then make sure we have everything working back through. Now, as I go maybe into a little bit more of a pitch shot, once again, this is very similar. It's gonna help us at the takeaway. It's gonna help avoid sucking the club on the inside, rolling open on the takeaway, and now it's gonna also be helping our sequencing coming down, getting those arms back in front, ensuring a more consistent dynamic strike at impact for more consistency and the distance out of your wedges. So I'm gonna bend it back now, get it to about that parallel, kind of this old alignment stick drill here, where as I go back, once again, if I start sucking the club inside, I'm gonna make contact to the training rod, giving me the feedback. I got the hands and arms too far inside on the takeaway. If I take it back, I can keep the club and kind of hands parallel to the training rod, or some people even like to take it back where the club head's a little outside the hands and we have a little visual and tactile feedback. As I get up to the top here, we can now avoid the body coming in, arms dropping, making contact to the training rod. Now, unlike the hard sticks that have been used for this drill, our training rod is very flexible. It's going to be able to bend when we hit it, allowing you to get the correct feedback, but then allowing you to bend it back up and go back for more repetitions. So when I get back to my pitch shot, I'm now gonna have the feeling of getting everything sequenced and moving together and avoiding losing the posture, having my hips come in and getting the club stuck behind. As we start to move into our full swing, this is where we have a lot more adjustability, and we wanna make sure that this is set up custom to your golf swing. So for a lot of our good players, they really exaggerate trying to feel the body kind of staying in posture on the downswing, allowing the hands and arms to get back in front. If you're someone who has a tendency from the top to start with your hips too early, this is gonna be a way for you to figure out where you're at now, being able to set the rod where you want to be at. So you're saying, this is where I'm able to find success. If I do it incorrectly, I'll make contact. And then we're able to adjust it, make it harder by moving the training rod more forward or towards your target line. We can also make this easier by simply just popping our training rod out, going into the back side of the training device. Now we're able to set it in a much easier position here. For those of you that are real spinners in the golf swing, you're gonna have a hard time using a stick that's parallel out in front. You've got to start where maybe that stick's a little more parallel to your back pocket. As you keep getting better, increase the difficulty by bending it forward, eventually getting to that point where you're able to pop it back out and go back up into the front and set it here. The training rod allows for adjustability. It allows you to grow in your swing. It gives you correct feedback. It allows you, the player, to analyze what you're doing out there on the range. So we hope this helps you get started with the TGT hip and get out to the range and start hitting golf balls. Okay, first I want to say thank you for purchasing your Total Golf Trainer arm. What we're going to do is go through your quick start guide to make sure that we're putting the club on correctly and adjusting the training rod to maximize your swing. To start, you're going to make sure you take your training rod, loosen up your set screw. It doesn't have to come all the way out, so that we can then insert the training rod and set down on the set screw, tightening it down into place. Next, we're gonna get into the Velcro straps. We can just loosen or pull one side of the Velcro strap up. There's two ways we can put this on. The first way is just by loosening both ends of the Velcro strap all the way to the end and being able to simply slip it or slide it onto our arm. Another way to do this is also going to be to just loosening or taking one end completely out. Now, when we go to put this in, we're going to make sure that we go from underneath and loop it around so that it makes this full big loop. So that's going to be when we slide it on. The other way, when we go on, we can put it on our arm. We can now once again slide up through the second and tighten down to fit onto our arm. To take off the product, we have two ways as well. You can either slip it all the way off, taking the strap off. I recommend securing it back down, so when you're not using it, secure the strap back down so it's not loose and gets stuck on things. Or once again, you can take it from on your wrist, loosening it all the way to the end. You can see I'm going to put the Velcro right at the end on both sides of the device, and then the size of my wrist, I'm able to slip it right off. And we're gonna first start out with how we adjust this training rod. So on the quick start guide, we do have it on our trail wrist. So I'm a righty, so I'm gonna have it on my right wrist or my trail wrist. I'm going to secure down, tighten down so it's nice and tight on my wrist and stays right on the top of my wrist to set. You can kind of see the red ball right over the top of my hand at address. Now again, depending on what type of shot we're gonna hit here, we're gonna adjust the training rod accordingly. Starting out, if we're doing a shot like a basic chip shot and we don't want a whole lot of wrist movement, then we really don't need to adjust the rod a whole lot. We wanna feel the pressure against our trail hand. As we set up, we feel the pressure, and we maintain the pressure as we go back and through, eliminating any extra wrist movement we might do on the way back, or giving us feedback if we flip our wrist on the way through. So just by leaving it the way it is, setting it with very little bit of space, we can keep this touch for a nice little bump and run chip. If I'm looking for a little longer swing, maybe that little waist high to waist high pitch shot from around 25 yards, so I'm gonna create just a little bend in the rod to get my wrist to eventually go back and contact the training rod. So as we look from down the line, as I start to go back, you're gonna see as I contact the back of my trail hand or my right hand with the ball right at about waist high. Now I'm gonna try to maintain contact to this as I come into my impact, and then maintain contact to this as I turn through to waist high. This is gonna give us good club face control. It's gonna give us control of the loft through impact, so we're able to get these smaller pitch shots around the green closer, more consistently to the hole. Now, as we start going a little longer and we want a little bit more, we're gonna be able to bend based on what you have the capability of doing. Everybody has different flexibility in their wrist, and everyone is looking for somewhat of a little different wrist position. If you're the Dustin Johnsons of the world, you're gonna bend this out to try to make sure you can bow that lead wrist and touch that trail wrist all you can. This is a little much for me. My wrists aren't flexible enough, so I'm gonna bend it a little bit more up to maximize where I wanna feel it touching for a full swing at the top of my backswing. So the first picture of the quick start guide and how we're gonna use it, it's important to make sure you adjust the rod according to the length of swing. On the quick start guide, the swing is a full swing. So you're gonna notice I have it set to maximize my full swing set at the top, controlling club face and giving me maximum feel of my golf swing. So once we now go to setup, now that I have it adjusted based on my swing, I'll be able to notice whether the club is square at address, whether I have too much handle pressed forward, or whether I even have too much handle leaning back at address. Now I can get set and be able to see the same amount of space at address. As I start to take the club away, I'm gonna be able to feel that instant touch onto the ball, avoiding that big rolling open and inside takeaway where you see no touch to the training rod ball. As I go from my halfway back, now I'm gonna maintain that touch as I wind up to the top of my backswing. If I lose the touch, I'm gonna start cupping my wrist, which is gonna indicate to me the club face gets open. And a lot of swings, going from about waist high up to the top is where we see a lot of the deviation of the club face. And then coming down, we're gonna be able to see that face staying open with no touch of the ball, or getting to the top, getting the touch of the ball, maintaining that touch coming down, ensuring my club face and my wrist positions are square, being able to then rotate into impact and feel like I maintain touch to the ball coming into impact, creating that real solid shaft lean at impact, and now allowing me to feel the correct release of my forearms back up to a finish where I'm gonna try to find that touch in my finish as well. A lot of people get that loose or collapsing arm finish where they pull in. We wanna be in control of the club out here and in control of the club face. Once again, thank you for your purchase. Trail wrist setting is gonna help with everything from your chip shots to your pitches all the way to your full swing. Make sure you're adjusting the rod correctly at setup and get out there and start practicing. Okay, first I want to start by saying thank you for your purchase of the Total Golf Trainer V2. We're going to go through the quick start guide to make sure that we're setting it up correctly so we can maximize the use of the product. So to start out, we've got our long training rod with our device, and we're gonna make sure using the 2 holes forward, we insert the training rod and lock down with our set screw in the back. After this, we're gonna be able to have 2 ways that we can use this Velcro around. First is we're gonna just undo both pieces of Velcro all the way open, and then we're gonna take the device and slide it right into the vent hole of the club. We're gonna be able to use the logo here to line it up down the center of the shaft. On my club, I actually have an arrow here, so it really helps me line it up right down the center. And then from there, I'm gonna secure the device down with my Velcro. You can use 1 piece of Velcro, you can use both pieces of Velcro, and even some people will keep the Velcro off and hold the device down with their hands. Now, from here, we're gonna bend into the setting we have on our quick start guide, which is our hanger setting. We're gonna start by bending the rod down. And when we go to bend the rod, we're gonna go about 1 inch up on the foam, and we're gonna put our fingers here and just bend the rod forward. And this is gonna bend to about a 45-degree angle here. And then our second bend on the training rod is gonna come out towards the end. And once again, this bend is gonna be adjustable. We'll talk a little bit more of how we can adjust it as we go. But I'm just gonna bend this now over top of my lead forearm. So now I have the first bend going down the middle. I've got the second bend going over my forearm. Now what this is gonna do at address, we wanna make sure that we have a little bit of space here in between our lead forearm and the training rod. Once again, this is adjustable based on the lead wrist position you're looking for. So with a little bit of space here, when I go to take the club away, you can see the training rod touches me, and I have a nice flat lead wrist. Well, some of you that want to have a little more of a bowed lead wrist, a little bit more of a down club face, then we're just going to start by bending the rod to create more space in here. Now when I go back, you can see in order to create this to touch, I've got to create a little bit more bow to my wrist. I've got a little bit more club face down. And this is custom to the way you set up and your grip strength and everything. Then the lag bend here on the top, you can see the space that starts in the lag bend. And then I'm going to go back. If I'm looking for a half swing, about a waist-high swing, you can see I've created contact to the lag bend. Now I'm going to make sure that I keep contact to the lag bend, also contact to the inside forearm. As I start coming down into impact, can feel the contact on the inside. And then when I go through in my release, I can feel and maintain the contact over here, knowing I had a correct release. Now, if I want to make a little more hinge, a little more length to my swing, I'm going to make an adjustment to my lag bend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this back up straight. I'm going to make the bend a little further, closer out towards the red ball. So I've got a lot more space in here, allowing me to go back and create a lot more wrist hinge. Once again, everyone can do a little bit different here based on your flexibility or just based on what you're looking for in your golf swing. If you're looking for a little less hinge, if I want a little more hinge, I can ultimately bend the training rod towards the shaft, giving me more space, allowing more hinge as I go back. So for some of you that have a tendency of getting to the top, getting a little long in your backswing, it's really good to set our lag bend so that you feel like you're touching it more at like a half hinge versus allowing yourself this big extra fold over where then you're gonna see the training rod's gonna bend out of place. So once we have this set up for whatever length of shot we're doing, from a little chip to a full little L swing pitch, all the way to maximizing what we can get at the top of our full swing, we're going to be able to come down and maintain the contact all the way into impact and then into our release, maintaining getting back to these 2 touches so that we have control of the club face and we also have control here of our lag and our release. The Total Golf Trainer V2 hanger setting is custom fit to your swing. Based on your grip strength, based on what type of lead wrist position you're looking for, or the amount of length of swing or lag coming into impact, make sure you adjust the product to fit your swing and get out to the range and start hitting balls.